you know, the IGTV or Instagram Live. Yeah. But in the meantime, I want to show you my, well, what happened was I found some caterpillar in my plants. And so I sort of took them out to have this little space. So this one here, so the butterfly just flew off this morning. And this one is still in its pupa stage. And this one as well. And it's really cool because, let me see. Oh, it looks like a black blob. But it's really cool because it's a kind of caterpillar that would, they will find a leaf. Yep. And they will roll it. And they have these little sticky threads that they make to roll them up. So they're kind of making their own little bunker. And then they will like, it sets a good like space for them to move into the pupa stage. Nice light. Yeah. So we'll give it a few more minutes. Then I'll start to introduce the the comic book, not caterpillars. Oh, thank you. Caterpillars are fun. So, hi. My name is Pix, and I'm a comics artist in Singapore. And I'm here to introduce my new book, Let's Not Talk Anymore. Sorry, I'm gonna I might keep saying the word so, I'm saying something and then so this, so that, and I'm trying my best not to do that. And it will get annoying because when I hear myself keep saying the word so just be very patient with me on that. Now, I think I would like to maybe start by sharing the inspiration behind the book. And I started work on Let's Not Talk Anymore in 2018. It was right after right after a very big fight with my mother. I've had many fights with her since I was a kid. And I was at a point where I thought, I think I need to vent this. I need to frustrate. I need to put all these really high angry energy into some place because it was no longer, it felt really it felt pointless to continue any dialogue with her because she was not having it. And maybe I was also not having that patience or capacity anymore. So the book started really as a kind of screw you, and it wasn't a comic yet. I was just painting her. I was painting portraits of her. I started to think of a photograph, in my memory, I remember this photograph of my mother, and it stood out to me in some way. I wasn't sure why, but I felt compelled to paint it out. And from that photograph, I thought there's some stories here that was sort of brewing, and so that was when the comic began. So essentially, I think Let's Not Talk Anymore started from just, fight with a mother, thinking of a memory of a photo of my mother. And then it grew into a comic. And I think also I work as an art teacher. I work with kids. Also stemming from my interest in, like, I noticed as an art teacher, I like to observe the way parents and child they interact with each other. And it also got me wondering a lot more about the quality of um, relationship to of myself, like with my mother. And I think from there I got to thinking, like, I wonder what it must have been like for my mother when she was young, and what was it like to have been raised by my maternal grandmother. I don't really know a lot about my maternal grandmother. I mean, the one of the sad thing is that we don't have a very strong shared language. My maternal grandmother, she speaks in a dialect that's called Hokkien, and I was not educated. I was not encouraged actually to pick that up. Um, um, and because of that, I can't really quite have a conversation with her at this age. So so it's sort of like my mind grew to wonder a little bit about my maternal grandmother. And I want then it got, so it started keep growing, and then it became like a comic about my matrilineal line, or figures along my matrilineal line. So okay. Um, the book. The process is quite straightforward, I think. I just basically write it out in a script form. Um, then I will draw it out in sketches, and then it gets to painting. Anything I could add to it? Yeah.
We can show.
Yeah, okay. We can show maybe a close up then of the stuff. Yeah. Okay. So, script. The script I managed to find an actual printout copy. But the reality is that I was working from Google Drive because I have a tendency to lose things. So this is quite rare that I found this. And yeah, I can just read a line that I wrote. She yells at me to open the door, threatening, if you don't open the door right now, I will simply take the key and open the door. So I think this is my mom yelling at me. I don't get up to open the door. I am so angry. I don't want to see her face. She takes the key and open the door. So we're talking about like invasion of privacy, crossing boundaries, go over here. I begin yelling at her to fuck off. Get the fuck away from me right now. Get out. I don't want to see you. And she yells back, did I teach you to say all these bad words? Who taught you to say fuck? This is quite common here in Singapore. There seems to be a strange allergy towards expression of anger. So meaning sometimes if you as a person, you bring up a problem to somebody and you are angry about the problem, so you might be getting a little like shouty or frustrated or annoyed because it's a very bad problem that's negatively affecting you. And if you just happen to like say vulgarities, then the other person will just almost immediately have the right to say, well, you're at fault now because you just use vulgar words, and it happens, this is like a very common thing that happens like for kids with their parents. In my generation, I think, I'm not sure about now, I think it might be a little better. In that parents are a lot more sensitive, maybe. I don't know. It still depends on what kind of background that they are coming from. But this stood out a lot. This this memory I have of my mom just having me to like, you know, like questioning why am I just so using vulgar words. I just feel like that is not a big deal and you should just like talk about something else. I also managed to found the sketchbook, the page where I was doing the math on what's the year that I want to, because each year in the book is in a way, that's the chapter. So like that starts this way. And then in a way that would be the next chapter. So this would be my maternal grandmother. And, oops, flipped too fast. So this will be my mother. And then myself. And here, oops, the light. And then I added the character of my imaginary daughter. See, I was just like sort of calculating, like, should it be later? Like, what is it? And does it make sense? Like, it has to like somehow make sense. So this was the page that where I landed on the specific years. Yeah, and then it sort of repeats itself for another 4 more times in this way. So each time you get a little glimpse into their lives, a little more fragments of their lives. And then, okay. So in terms of, so that's that. So script is done. The actual script is way thicker than this, but this is just a bit of a sample here. So once I got those things down, I started to sketch. Yeah, you just sketch to plan how the story is gonna flow. Sometimes when I'm working, I'm watching something and I might just sketch a character that's in the show. Like, get out, and she didn't. I can't see what I wrote. But yeah. Oh, that's your sculpture. There's like frogs farting. What's going on? Okay, let's like, okay, sketches. Yeah, just planning. And still, I think at this stage is also still planning how the dialogue goes. So sometimes I might say, maybe I want to add here. And then I'm still sort of swapping around. I might go like, maybe I don't want to talk about that yet. Who knows? So yeah. Then we get to painting. Right. So I'm just going to bring out a sample page from the book. So the real works are bigger. They are on kind of like an A4 size paper. I like the little mini version. And so acrylic paint. Oh, hold on. Get something. This is it's over there. So this is how my workspace looks. There's always 2 palettes minimum. And I would use this brand because they have nice variety of colors. Then I would squeeze it into the smaller little pockets. And then the mixing of the colors goes all around in the big ones, the bigger bowls and the top. The brushes are here. And this is the one that is actually a nail art brush. It's for this, but it's very helpful to get the little beautiful thin lines that you see like this and the little dots and eyes. So once all that is painted, I think I did the panels first. So I found the box of the leftover like cut color papers for the panels. And I will use kind of like a regular glue. It's not super wet because, so I'm not sure if there's a name to this kind of glue.
Glue stick.
Right. Use a glue stick. Now, the reason I don't want to use very wet glue is because as I paste the panels and the text as well, if I make any mistake, I can still peel it out and arrange things around. So it's very giant. It's very like gentle on my mistakes at this point. Oops. So after the panel is done, after the panel is done, by then I already know quite clearly what I want the characters to see. Then I will use my
You're muted.
Did something happen?
Somehow it got muted. So I think go back to where you're describing the nib.
Oh, really? Whoopsie. Okay. Okay, so by the time I'm done with the panel, sorry about that. I would then use a nib pen, dip it in Indian ink, and I'll write it on cartridge paper. And I specifically choose like a paper that is slightly textured. It's not very, it's so that I can still sort of keep like a handmade quality to the work. That you look at it and then you look through the pages and you can tell like my actual pair of hands was just very much involved in the whole making of it. And then it's done, and then I'll stick it, and then it goes into, ooh, and yeah, so once it's done, I will put it away. Yeah. And is there any questions?
That you haven't said yet.
Oh,
You have to ask first.
oh, I guess if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'm happy to answer your questions. It's what I'm here for right now. Or I can share more of other things that is around the space, which is where I usually look. No, no. Hold on, we can-
So Pix, while you're flipping through, Lauren Hind is asking, how do you decide the color scheme?
Oh gosh, how do I decide? Uh, this is gonna sound unprofessional, is that I didn't decide it. I'm sorry. I think it's a very interesting question, but it's one of those that I'm still thinking that it's been so intuitive. I've not really sat down and think about and sort of break it down like the intuitive processes at work. But let me see if something sort of pop up. Like like things like these, I think there are some memories of actual, like this is me as a 15-year-old kid in detention. And at a certain time period, it was very common for this particular blue of a school table to be in the secondary school. But other than that, it's been very unplanned.
So
Oops.
Atomic Trigger is asking, how long did it take you to make this book?
It took 2 years, and each page I think some pages took almost 6 to 7 hours to finish. The shortest ones where maybe there might be less panels, in a way this is less panels and details than something like this. So this might take about 4 to 5 hours because there's a lot of like just blocks of color, right? Where if you and I think details like this, these will like take time, but they are very fun to do. So I will always like try my best to add more and more.
Yunro is asking, are these painted in gouache or what material?
Oh, here. So this is the acrylic brand that I've been using, the folk art series. They are acrylic paints, and the reason I'm sort of frowning a little bit is I personally would want to slowly shift towards like my shift towards like as little plastic use as possible. But it's so far, because comics takes generally a very long time to finish, and in the past when I have used watercolors and gouache, particularly some of the artworks, the original artworks that were made in the previous book, Sweet Time, those original artworks were like watercolors and gouache, and their actual colors have faded because of because like heat, like Singapore is a very hot and humid country. my fault also, I don't store my works well. I didn't anticipate that it would fade out so badly. But I was also kind of lucky that I had the practice of scanning my works almost like quite quickly when they were done. So I think in the future comic work, I thought I would just want to use acrylic because they last longer. They what's the word? They keep better.
Let's see if there's some more questions.
So, only a few more minutes.
So Linus Mal Mquist asks, how do you not sure about that. How do you decide on the panel borders? I love the style of them.
Oh, that's a good question because there's an interesting story there. The paper panels, let me think quickly. Okay, there is one story, it's in the previous book, Sweet Time. The story is called Birds. And that was like the first comic, that was like the first story where I started using paper panels. That was because when I was working on Birds, I was in an artist residency in, I think it's Buenos Aires. And I think it was an artist residency that was called RARO, RARO. And that residency is kind of interesting in that they have you stay at different artist studio and you're working with them. You're working in you're in a room of that's filled with their materials. And I happened to start using paper panels when the artist that I was first assigned to, he was working on like a lot of paper collages. So I will be sitting here working, painting, and then he's here just like cutting and lots of stuff, just like sits and sit. And and then one day I just sort of took one of the paper and was like, oh, maybe this is like a nice way to divide pages, and like it also aligns with how I love to make things by hand. And I thought, oh, and so when I started working on Let's Not Talk Anymore, I thought that was one of the things that I wanted to, like one of the elements of comics that I wanted to retain, which is like paper panels. Thank you, Linus. We were like online friends.
See. And do all your comics have that kind of paneling, or?
Just for this one, because the new one that I'm working on, okay, the new ones have no panel. The new ones are like ugly. Yeah, but this is one that I'm working on right now, and I think it's because after working on Let's Not Talk Anymore, it's just too much paper paneling, and I think it's kind of natural for any artist to just want to try something different and explore something else. So that's what happened.
Jen Boyce is asking, is it sometimes hard to motivate yourself to do the work, or do you set a certain time, or what's your schedule like?
Oh yeah. Sorry, very interesting. I think as I grow older as an artist, it's being very, it's like you have to train yourself to, it's almost like you got to train yourself to know when you need to take a break. So for me is I might be painting. So my standard day is from afternoon till from like 1, 2 p.m. till about 8, 9 p.m. I'm working on a comic. And I do get like tired. I don't get bored, but I do get physically just exhausted. And then I sort of imagine my creative energy like there's sort of like a little ball inside of me moving around. I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with like Calcifer the Fire or like Studio Ghibli, but I just imagine it looking like that. But once I get kind of tired from comics, I know that it's time to just shift a little bit away for a while. So I might be sewing, I might be drawing comics in pencil. I might actually also work on actual like freelance illustration projects. I've also like a lot of people after pandemic, I've also taken to baking and cooking. So which I think is such a which I'm really glad to have discovered because you're just getting creative with ingredients. And I love it because there's like very little waste. We end up eating the food we eat. So yeah, it's like this. There is, I think that might answer the question. Yeah, it's like you're just moving your creative energy around into different things, and just being like aware when it's time to just take a bit of a break. All right.
One more question or no?
Should we take one more question if there is?
Skeever13 is asking, are you part of a comic scene in Singapore, or what is the comic scene in Singapore like?
I am very sadly not. It's quite separated, I think. And I'm not sure why. Like comic artists here work. I think because Singapore is a very small country. There is no comic scene. There are people that we know that makes some comics here and there, but there isn't like a group where we meet and hang out. I don't know why. I have some theories that I've made up that I saw like make up stories in my mind about it, but I don't think I should share it, to be honest. And one of the reasons, it's kind of like why, and I'm still doing comic because I found my comic family outside of Singapore. I think it was 2013 I visited Argentina and I met a group of incredible female comic artists, and to see what they do and to see that it's not easy and to just like meet people who persevere through it all. And I thought, okay, I need to not give up, because at some point I just wanted to stop because there's no comic magazine in Singapore. There's like almost no comics exhibitions. The newspapers, cartoons and comics, from like 4 pages worth of it when I was young, it's been reduced to, it's been reduced to like, this is a newspaper page, it's just here now. And that's really tragic and sad. Or maybe even just half. So I actually came from an environment where I didn't feel supported for a very long time. But I think that now with social media, it's been helpful to find them. Yeah, but we still don't really have like a group going. That's the part that I can't answer because I myself have no idea why. Why? I thank you all so much for your very interesting, amazing questions. I think there's some that I didn't answer, and it's good questions that I need to think about more after this IG Instagram live. So yes, the book is now available at Drawing Quarterly's website. Thank you so much for watching this, and your support is immense and incredible, especially during this very, very trying time. Thank you. Hmm.